Welcome to episode 4 of things that I am very passionate about. So passionate that I basically cannot stop talking about them. And yet I try to put them in a podcast or video that's not too long. Today I am accompanied by two doggies in the background, so you might hear some extra noises and maybe even some rain in the back right now. It's just raining like crazy in Berlin. It's absolutely wonderful. And so, just so you know, this is episode 4, but I also noticed when uploading the previous ones that I might actually not upload them in the order in which I record them. Might be that there's a better time for some of them. I'm just going to continue giving them numbers because I like it, but they might be shuffled up a little bit. And so, this episode I want to dedicate to something that I'm just very fascinated by myself, have been for a few years now. Something that I think plays a very important role when it comes to embodied spirituality. If you're curious about what that means, then you can listen to episode 2. Um, Something that's very important for if you want to live a conscious life, if you want to consciously go beyond your own limitations, your own patterns, your own karma, so to say, and move towards something like freedom. And this thing that I'm very curious about is the difference between pushing yourself and forcing yourself. And this is also a topic that plays a big role in the sessions, the group sessions, the satsang, the one-on-one sessions that I have with my clients, because the people that I work with tend to be very good at pushing themselves and struggle actually to surrender to life, to trust in life, to trust their intuition. And together with me, they go on a journey from pushing to flowing, actually, from forcing to ease. And so, what fascinates me so much about it is because I myself have quite some experience with situations in which I, in hindsight, obviously forced myself too much in such a way that, for example, afterwards I was just like, I might even have hurt my body, or I was absolutely exhausted, or I might have done something that actually didn't feel right to begin with. But then also many times I did something to push myself and it brought me further, even though the push was uncomfortable. And so I find it extremely fascinating to notice, or to be able to notice, the very subtle difference between when are you pushing yourself and when are you forcing yourself. So basically what I want to do in this episode is just talk through it, allowing myself actually to just let all the words come out like a waterfall again. And I'm just going to use, I think, a lot of examples from my own life because I think that will be the easiest way to explore this topic. And to be honest, I'm not sure if by the end of it I'm going to have a clear answer. So maybe this episode is even a bit like you joining me in my head and observing what it's like when I try to discover or unravel or investigate these things, because I really like to investigate. I am someone who goes through life trial and error all the way, in all areas of my life, but mostly having my own business since 5 years or so has been the greatest trial and error experiment that I've ever done and that I'm still doing. So this is generally my approach to life, that I'm curious about something, I jump in, I sometimes go flat on my face, and then I jump up again. I'm like, okay, well, first, of course, I might be upset or sad about it. But then also I always come to a point where I'm like, okay, well, been there, done that. Now I know, moving on. That's my approach. So yes, I've had quite some error experiences also. And I think it will be interesting to just use these as an example to investigate this. What is the difference between pushing yourself and forcing yourself? And first of all, I want to talk about, what do I exactly mean with pushing yourself? I think we all know the saying or the words about something like, what is it? Magic only happens outside of your comfort zone. Stuff like that. It's all over Instagram. It's on every poster. A hyped up thing. You'll always find stepping out of your comfort zone means that you will grow, or you will find whatever it is that you're looking for, or the magic will happen. And so there's a few elements to this. First of all, I feel from my own experience that the best guideline, or the best trick to understand if it is worth, or it is a good, it's a bit difficult to define decisions as good or bad, because in the end it doesn't really matter. But let's say an aligned decision, when you experience a combination of fear and excitement, this is usually the good stuff. So for me personally, when I feel that something excites me, but it also scares me at the same time, then I usually know, okay, this is something that deep down inside I want to do. And then the layers above this longing and this sense of joy, which is my identity, the thoughts that I have, is basically the layer in which my mind takes over. I start to overthink, I start to worry, stuff like that. It's in that layer that I will come up with 1,000 reasons why it's not a good idea, why I shouldn't be doing this, why it's too much money, I don't have time, it's too scary, whatever. All those reasons that are not really true, but they try to protect you, basically. And I think it's really good to understand in that moment where you feel joy and fear, or joy and sort of nervousness, to understand that the only thing that's happening in that moment is that your ego is trying to protect you. And I feel that the word ego has gotten a very bad name in the spiritual community. We're all talking about ego death and how ego is in the way of everything to a certain degree, sure. But at the same time, if you wouldn't have an ego, you wouldn't be alive right now. If it wasn't for your ego, you wouldn't be eating, you wouldn't be drinking, you wouldn't be making any money, you wouldn't be attached to any sort of earthly thingy. So basically, nothing would happen and you would just die. So, ego is not a bad thing. The question is, can you recognize it? Can you handle it? Can you play with it? Can you distance yourself from it? That's more interesting. So basically, the role of the ego is survival. That's all it wants for you, and it's quite sweet. It's just trying to protect you. It's just that usually, by protecting you, it's keeping you small, it's keeping you in the same space where you already are because it's comfortable. It's basically ego equals comfort zone in a way. So once you understand that there's an ego at play and an underlying desire that wants more for you, you can come to a point where you decide, okay, which of these two do I want to follow? Do I want to follow the joy, the excitement, or do I want to follow the ego? And either way, there's no right or wrong decision. Also, for this, the question is just, what do you want? What do you truly want? What do you truly desire? And then can you decide accordingly? And it's again, and I've mentioned this before in another episode, it is the very fact that you have the ability to decide in every moment of your life how to act, how to respond, whether to listen to your ego or your joy or your intuition. That is the very essence of empowerment, of freedom. So also in these moments where you feel like it's scary, but it also excites me, how do you decide? Know that you can decide. So it's these situations, and my most recent example for this is that a few weeks ago, I decided to take singing classes. Singing classes is something that I have been wanting to do for actually, I think maybe 2 years already. I love singing. I always, basically, I'm nonstop singing, just not when people are around. No one usually hears me sing, or maybe, if I'm not paying attention, you might pick up something. That's how me and singing are doing. But I absolutely love it. And I felt for quite a long time something needs to open up in my throat. And one part of that was, okay, let's record some more podcasts and videos. And the other part of it was, I really want to go singing. I really, really want to sing. But in the past few years, I've always thought, like, okay, I'll wait until I make this amount of money. I wait until I get a tip for a really good teacher. I'll wait until whatever, whatever, whatever. There were always reasons why I wasn't doing it yet. Looking back at it, I don't think it's wrong that I was postponing it at all, because I honestly feel there's a right time and place for everything. So it's okay that it didn't happen before, but it's funny to recognize your own pattern, your own strategies to not do the things that you actually do want to do. So a few weeks ago, or actually a few months ago, when I came back to Berlin again after being abroad for some time, we walked into the street where we live. And then in the time that we were gone, it turned out that a music school had opened up in our street, literally a 1 minute walk. And for me, it was a sign of like, okay, stop avoiding, stop pretending, stop making up excuses. It's right there in your street. There's, no escaping. And so I decided to do singing classes. And the first time I went, I was, of course, nervous. And still, when I go, I'm not nervous. But when my teacher asks me to sing something by myself and she's just listening, I feel the fear coming up. I feel how I become a bit smaller, a bit more tense, and my voice actually becomes more tense as well. So I'm now in the process of getting out of this comfort zone, because I love to sing and I love to explore my voice, and I've learned so much already, and I'm singing even more every day. So it's really, really, really helping me. So this is an example where I feel that exploring my outside of my comfort zone, pushing myself, has helped me tremendously. At the same time, I also know from my own experience that, especially a few years ago, I was a lot tougher on myself. Funnily enough, within my realm of spirituality. So it was a few years ago where I started to do a certain type of meditation and a certain type of hatha yoga. And at one point, I went to India to stay there for 1 month. And basically, what we did all that month was work, so volunteering. You do your asanas, your yoga, you do your meditation, you eat twice per day, and if you have any free time, then you meditate some more. And it was a beautiful experience, but it was so exhausting. And I just was exhausted. I was just so exhausted because we didn't sleep so much. Back then, I needed more sleep than I need nowadays. So for me, it was really physically, it was just really tough and exhausting. And it was okay because I know that sleep and my focus on sleep is one of my patterns actually that I'm currently working through. But at that time, being there, I basically just pushed myself and I pushed myself, and I didn't allow myself to slack in any kind of way. I never took any naps during the day, even though if I would sit and close my eyes to meditate, I immediately started dreaming and fall asleep. Like I was done, and that was already after 1 week. So it was a long month, but it was a beautiful month. I don't regret any of it, but I really, really pushed myself, and also physically. So I was doing the hatha yoga twice per day. And then when I came back again to the Netherlands and then to Berlin, actually, after spending a month there, my body was on the edge. Also, I would say I didn't get my period that month. I lost quite some weight. I had pushed myself so hard doing the asanas that there were some muscles in, like, I think I tore a muscle in my leg, and there was something in my neck, and I had pain basically all the time. But I kept going because I was so determined, and I was so willing to push myself, because my longing for freedom was and is, in a way, still the most important thing for me. So I was very willing to do it also. I was very willing to push myself. However, it led me to a point, being back in Berlin, where, first of all, my body was not very comfortable. It wasn't necessarily healing from the little damages that I did to it. Nothing extraordinary bad, but just, I didn't give it time to really recover from it. And at one point, I came an energy and into a space for myself where I was basically not interested in anything else anymore than doing my yoga. Where I really thought to myself, if I could wish anything for myself, I have my three wishes. What would I wish for myself, or what would my life look like? I was just thinking, I'll move to the forest and I'm just gonna do yoga all day, every day. And that's all I care about. And it was pretty intense to realize this at one point. I didn't have so much fun when I would go out with friends to have a coffee or something. I didn't enjoy it so much anymore. I didn't care about food so much anymore, which is a big thing for me. It's just my whole interest in life, the beauty of it and the fun of it. It had gone, actually. I was far out of it. I was so invested in this type of in this determination of pushing myself, or actually forcing myself, that I had lost touch with life. And to be clear, this is not something that the yoga school or the ashram where I went, this is not something that uh, is in their philosophy, that you should be in such a way that you become detached from life. It's the opposite, actually. But this was my way of actually forcing myself in such a way that I went beyond the needs of my body. I went beyond the joy of life. And in the end, I was detached, uninvolved, uncomfortable, and it was just not great. So, just to name two versions, one was the pushing with the singing, and it brought me so much joy. One was the forcing, which led to what I just told you. These are quite obvious examples, in hindsight always, but on a more subtle level, I also know for myself, the last years having my own business, I have pushed myself a lot, and I have forced myself maybe even more. Like I said, I'm someone who, my way to go is trial and error. And in my business, I had a lot of it. I have organized a retreat where I sold one ticket, had to cancel it. Also, COVID happened and I lost €1,000 on it. I have set up workshops where no one bought a ticket. I have done so many things that didn't work out, in the traditional sense of the word, that either no one bought a ticket, or no one showed up, or I launched a new program and no one wanted it, or I had an idea for a online community and it never really worked. Like, I tried a lot of different things. And also I did things that did work out or do work out. But whenever things didn't work out, my initial reaction was always like, you know what, it's okay. It's okay. Something better will come, or it's for the best, or I learned from it, or at least now I learn not to attach so much to the outcome. Uh, just get up and keep going. And there is a part in this that is I'm very grateful for, and there is a sort of unlimited optimism in me, which I'm grateful for. And at the same time, this optimism was mixed with a certain type of really harshness towards myself. I didn't really allow myself to be bummed out by those results. I didn't allow myself really to just be fed up with, and again, it didn't work out. Or I didn't allow myself to just feel disappointed, actually. I was always going to the next thing. And um, then came a point summer last year where I decided to quit my part-time office job that I also had next to my business, because I felt I need to push myself, or actually I need to create more space for my business so that it can really start to thrive in the way that I want. Because my dream basically from the beginning has always been to be completely, in German you call it selbstständig, so independent, in the sense that I would just have my own business and I wouldn't need to have any job on the side, because that would just feel limiting. I don't like it when or I didn't like it when someone tells me what to do and when to do it. So I just wanted to have my own business, and that's it. So this is the dream that I have been pushing for and forcing towards also. So summer last year, I quit that office job, had then all the time and space in the world to really focus on my own business, did so, and then the numbers, financial numbers, drastically started to decline. And a fear entered me, or actually a fear that was already dormant inside of me, or a fear that I even had thought that I had overcome already. Because, little jump back in time, before quitting my office job, I had made quite some big financial investments to get myself some business coaching, and that decision was a beautiful example of being terrified and joyful. It was absolutely the right one. So I invested money more than I thought I would ever invest in coaching. Learned so much from it, but in the process of paying that amount of money, I already had to deal often with the fear of, like, okay, how am I going to make it to the end of the month? Somehow it always worked out. So I thought, okay, I've gone through the fear, I've explored this fear, I'm okay with this fear, I can handle it now. Time to quit my job. Nothing was less true. It turned out that that was just the beginning of it. It was correct. So the financial numbers started to decline drastically, and there I was. I had my dream life, so to say. I had all the time and freedom in the world to do the things that I wanted to do, and I didn't have the money to do any of it. And at that same time, my partner, my great love, he went abroad for 5 months. So I was sort of alone for about a month and a half. I was alone, living alone in Berlin, before then living with my family, with my parents for some time. And so, alone, don't have any money. Everyone around me was working normal hours. So during the week, I didn't know what else to do than just to walk the dog hours and hours and hours. And there was this fear inside of me of, like, I need to have clients. I need to find new clients because I have to pay my rent and I have to pay food, and I want to do nice things. And what this did to me is that it brought a certain tension. It locked things up inside of me. It completely blocked the flow of things. And with this example, I really want to express that this is how it was for me. I know that there's people out there, if they have the pressure of, like, okay, somehow I need to make money because I need to pay rent, then their creativity is stimulated. They start making beautiful decisions and things start rolling. For me, it was the opposite. Things blocked. And then I kept pushing, or actually in hindsight, I kept forcing myself to come up with a new idea, to come up with a strategy, to think of this and think of that, and to not be upset about it, and it's gonna be okay, and we'll make it. And I stayed in this sort of this optimism, but really a bit more forced optimism, until at one point, uh, after maybe 2 months or something, or 3 months, I crashed. I did my yoga in the morning in a gentle way. And it just went through my mind, and I just saw myself, all the times that I had fallen and got up again, all the times that I had pushed myself, all the times that I'd forced myself, and I felt exhausted. I felt so exhausted, sad, angry. Why does it not work out? Why doesn't it work out for me? How much more do I need to put in this for it to ever work? I was so fed up with it all that I decided to quit my business. And this is a lovely example of a quite drastic decision that I needed to make in that moment, and it was okay. In that moment, I decided I am done. I am done. I cannot do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. If the universe wants me to do my thing and support people, then it better start showing me that I am supported, because I'm out. I am done. So in that day, I spoke with my parents, who were absolutely so supporting and so loving, and who could really hold me in that space, and said, I'm going to look for a full-time job. Another drastic decision. I'm going to look for a full-time job. I'm out. And after I made that decision to stop forcing myself, first there were a few days of absolute exhaustion, as if all the tension of those years just came out of my system, wanted to be released. And I was just lying on the couch watching Netflix, and I was just eating chocolate, drinking tea, just recovering, basically, just noticing how the system was softening up again. And so in the weeks after, I started to look online for full-time jobs. And then something interesting happened. With the decision that I was not going to force myself anymore, I created the opportunity, or the possibility within me, to make decisions coming from a place of relaxation instead of forcing. What I mean with this is that I started looking at full time positions, and then I noticed within myself, every time I looked at any of those positions, I felt so tired. Just reading the job description, I was like, this is too exhausting. This is too exhausting. This I cannot. Just my whole body literally responded saying, no, you're not going to do this. So then slowly I got away from the idea, of course, of doing a full time job. And I also realized I love my business. I love it. I just don't want to force it. I'm okay with pushing myself. I don't want to force it. I'm done forcing myself. So I decided, I'll keep my business on the side, but I'll just look for a part time job that can at least support me and give me the sense of financial stability that is really important for me, more than I knew before. And so then I thought, okay, part time job. Then being in this space of allowing myself to, I remember thinking this, I'm going to take the way of the least resistance. I'm allowing myself to not force myself anymore. I'm allowing myself to go the way of the least resistance. So what if, I thought, I just type into Google all the things that I wish for myself, don't even know if it's possible to have that in a job, and let's see what happens. So I typed in office manager because I'm good at it, I have a lot of experience with it. I typed in home office because I like home office and I want to be with my dog. I typed in English because my German is great. It's just exhausting to communicate in German all day. And what else? Something else. Just that if I can do anything, let's see what comes out of this. And then I put that in Google. A job description pops up. I read it. It makes me happy. I feel excitement in my body. Not tired, excited. I write a letter for it. Like I apply for the job. Writing the letter in 2 hours made me super happy. I sent a letter. I get invited for the job interview. Interview made me happy. And then a few days later, I got the job. And so right now I have a 20-hour part-time job as an office manager in a really nice small company that works with food tours. So basically, I talk about food all day and every day, and it gives me the structure for the day. It gives me sort of it's because it's a very office management, organizing, sending emails, planning, bum 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 bum, which is a beautiful balance to my flowy kind of own business, and it gives me a financial stability on which I can completely relax. I can completely relax. And what this has shown me already, I've just been doing this for a couple of months now, is that a few weeks ago, I had received some coaching. I had decided to start my singing classes. So within me, a lot of transformation happened. My system needed to adjust to that a bit. So basically, I was out for a week and a half or 2 weeks or something. I was just tired, really tired, quite emotional, really sort of raw, like everything was too much. I was over stimulated. I really needed to be home without any screens, without any input, and just be. And I remember thinking to myself, normally in a week like that, because every now and then this happens and it's okay, but normally in a week like that, I would force myself to get up and write a post, or I would force myself to still send out a newsletter, or I would force myself to do something that I think I'm supposed to be doing, which in the end never has the result because because I forced myself. And because I knew I have my financial basics there, I can relax in this week of being tired and not inspired at all. Doesn't mean I enjoyed that week at all. I mean, I would have liked to feel better, but I could surrender to it. I could completely surrender to it, knowing that it was okay, knowing that I didn't have to force myself. And then slowly, of course, that passed also, got out of it, woke up fresh, and then felt super inspired to record a ton of podcasts all of the sudden from a place of joy and also a bit nervousness because who knows what it's gonna look like and who knows if anyone's gonna like it and blah blah blah, all those mind thingies, ego trying to protect me, thank you very much, not interested, following the joy, pushing myself to do it, but not forcing myself. So, to come back to the first question, what is the difference between pushing yourself and forcing yourself? I think the most important difference is that pushing yourself comes from a place of abundance. And by abundance, I don't necessarily mean having a lot of money or having a lot of stuff. Abundance, I mean this rich feeling of I am okay and I want more for my life, from my life. I am okay and I want to grow. Whereas forcing yourself comes from a place of lack. And again, doesn't mean lack, not having enough money. Lack in a sense of I'm not good enough, or there's not enough money, or any type of tension, any type of it's not enough or good enough. When it comes from that place, it will lead to forcing yourself. And as a result, forcing usually doesn't give you the results that you're looking for. If indeed you come from a place of, I'm not good enough, and you're going to force yourself to do something, or there's not enough money and you're going to force yourself to do something, you usually end up being either in the exact same state or worse. Whereas if you move from a place of abundance, you will end up in flow where it can be multiplied in the positive sense. And so if this is something that you struggle with forcing yourself too much, really take a moment to reflect. In what way am I forcing myself? Why am I forcing myself? What is the belief behind it, or what is the lack behind it that is driving this force? And what can I do to transform this lack into an abundance? So for me, for example, it was getting a job that gave me a certain financial stability. If it's about not feeling good enough, what can you do, or whose help can you get to embody actually, I am good enough, I just want more? So this is the question for you. And I think this is where we're going to end it. It's been an interesting recording, freestyling all the way. Didn't really know where we were going to end, but I feel that different aspects have been mentioned, different examples. And so just see for yourself if it resonates, how it resonates, and if indeed you feel that you're forcing too much, investigate where does it come from, and then know that you can always move it to a place of abundance and flow.